On this episode of All Access Chat, we catch up with Sheriff Chris Swanson of the Genesee County Sheriff's Office in Flint, Michigan. Sheriff Swanson just about broke the internet recently when he decided to take matters into his own hands, lay down his helmet and his shield, and join the protesters who were marching outside the police station in protest of the death of George Floyd. Come join me as we take you behind the door for an All Access Chat with Sheriff Chris Swanson on this episode. Good day, everyone, and welcome to the channel. I am David Rains, your host of All Access Chat. Super excited to be bringing you the content from people from the entertainment, music, sports, and people that are making a difference in the world. So if you like what you see here, make sure to hit the subscribe button, hit the bell notification so you know when we're uploading new content, and hit those like buttons if you see an episode that you're really happy about. We want to make sure that we bring you relevant content, take you behind the scenes, and have chats that no one else is having with celebrities. So if you want to hear from someone in particular, make sure you comment in the comment section down below, and we'll do our best to get people on for you. We got a special guest today for our first chat. It's Sheriff Chris Swanson from the Genesee County Sheriff's Office. And we had set up a chat with Chris via video, but we had some technical difficulties, so we had to settle for just the audio portion of the chat today. But we're hoping that you're going to enjoy this anyway. So sit back, relax, and enjoy the episode. Welcoming to the show, Sheriff Chris Swanson from the Genesee County Sheriff's Department. Good afternoon, Sheriff.
Good afternoon, my brother, and all of my Canadian friends.
And how are things in Michigan today?
You know what? Aside from having great weather, we are now going to day 13 in Flint, Michigan, that has a history and a reputation of violence and crime and water that's poison. Zero arrests, zero injuries, zero fires, protest every day. It's the way it's done. So proud.
That's pretty awesome. That is good news for sure. Let's get into a little bit about you first, and then we'll get into some of the things that I saw on TV and maybe talk a little bit about that. And you can give us some information about what's happening in your city a little bit deeper maybe. So tell us a little bit about how you got started in your law enforcement career.
Well, I'm third generation police. My dad was in the Detroit riots in the 1960s and left the job in the early 70s. My grandfather, his dad, did 32 years on the Detroit Police Department. So I always grew up. It was in my blood. It was in the DNA. And ironically, I'm the only one in law enforcement on both sides of my family now. And it was just kind of what I was called to do. I started at the Sheriff's Office when I was 18 as a seasonal Marine deputy on the water. And last week I celebrated my 27th year full-time on the job.
That's amazing. So I'm sure over those 27 years, you have seen some changes to policing and the way it's done.
Oh, my gosh. I remember when I started full-time in 93, I'd talk to people that had 30 years on the job, and they'd be like, nothing like it was when I first started. And I always think, what does that mean? Now, fast forward, I can know exactly what it means, because police work in 63 was different than 93, which is going to be way different than it has in 2020.
Absolutely, for sure. So I see you've assisted with some pretty high-profile people coming through the area. Do you have one experience that stands out in your head?
Yeah. I met Joe Biden when he was vice president for Barack Obama at a fire hall across the street from where I'm talking to you right now. And after he talked, he has a meet and greet. We're all standing in the back of the fire hall, and it's one person at a time. And my turn comes up, and I said, "How you doing, Mr. Vice President?" And he looks at me, and he takes his fist, and he pounds him on my chest. He said, "You need to start working out, boy. Let's take a picture." And that's how I met Joe Biden for the first time.
Oh, that's pretty awesome.
Yeah, it's crazy. But literally all the cool stuff in my life I have tracked back to this office, from meeting unbelievable people to traveling around the world to being an Iron Man. Crazy. This place has opened up the door of the world to me.
Excellent. So let's talk a little bit about that video that has made you quite the internet sensation. And I'm sure you've probably gotten not too many hours sleep over the last couple of weeks answering all of the calls to talk about that. But can you tell us a little bit about what happened leading up to that video that we didn't see?
The story behind the story goes, the week prior, the whole nation, even around the world, had felt the tension of what 8 minutes and 46 seconds showed. And as the days progressed, so did those tensions. And on the night before, the 29th, in Oregon, they torched the sheriff's office. They, torched CNN headquarters and other police precincts. So we knew that it was happened the night before, except for this protest. We had known a couple days that it was going to be there, and it was supposed to be a peaceful protest. But as the day went on, by the hour, you could just feel the energy around the nation, especially in Flint. Long story short, started at 5. People started showing up. by the hour. It increased. Long about dusk, they took a different turn from where they were marching, and that turn was up to the local police department. And it was a out of the way drive, and it was only there for intention. And that's when the whole temperature of the hostility changed. Now we're in the hundreds of people. There's a line of cars. There's people on the roof and on the hoods, and they're screaming, and they're saying just horrible things about police and all these things. And I tell you, in all my years, as I was walking up to the line with my battle armor on, I could not have ever imagined that amount of intensity. And I've worked in dope and human trafficking and undercover. I mean, this was intense, because I knew that this is what the whole nation is dealing with in big cities, and it's happening right here. So that anxiety and that stress was at peak level. But literally, when I looked to my right, I'm on the line, and I saw a little break in the position, and I saw a little fist bump, and I saw somebody in the crowd. There was only one person I recognized. He's a street pastor that I've known for a long time. He lost 2 kids to homicide, 2 different situations. I mean, he's in the street. I went to the crowd to him. I took off my helmet. I gave a big old hug. And that's when one of the shot callers from the crowd came over, one of the lead organizers. I gave him a hug, and I said, "Bro, you tell me what we have to do." And that's when he said, "Walk with us." But I had to first step in there. So my feeling of anxiety and stress, and this isn't to be macho or superhero, but it literally dissipated the second I took my helmet off and walked in the crowd. It was instinctive, and they had to see that. And in hindsight, I'm glad that I did it for obvious reasons, because the first move had to be from the police. And when they saw that, they responded, and the rest is history.
Makes perfect sense. So the decision to do that, was it kind of spontaneous, or did you have kind of an idea in your mind that you wanted to do something, you know, going out there to kind of dissipate the tension?
Not 1 ounce of planning. Not 1 ounce. In fact, to this day, and most cops will tell you, our best police tactics is your gut, your instinct. And many times we've been involved in high-stress situations, and we react and we respond, and then people will tell us later what you did, and you don't even comprehend that. And when you have years of experience and training, and I have a heart for people. I mean, I love people. I've been in every tactical situation you could think of, so I've been battle tested. All that comes into play that very second, and that's what allowed, looking back, the instinct to just say, "Hey, take your helmet off. It's a barrier. Take the look away. It's a psychological defense, and go in the crowd. Just mix it up." That's what happened. And they responded. You know, I have to also say that we started in the jail in my young career. So I worked in situations that there's 120 inmates and 2 of us. So when you have all those different experiences, it makes a decision like that, looking back, a very wise decision, even though I had a 50-50 shot.
Right.
It could have gone really bad, but it went really good. And at that point, you know, your police that are listening right now know that you have a lot of tools, a lot of options, and sometimes you smash a grand slam, and other times you get socked in the face.
And what's the reaction been of your fellow officers, both that night when it happened and since then?
Well, that's the beauty of it. And I will tell you, in law enforcement, validation is one of the greatest rewards. And I knew that day, because I've gotten responses from even officers' families that were on the line, and they were so thankful that the crowd turned and there wasn't a confrontation, because make no mistake, cops are scared. I don't care who says they're not, they're lying. There was fear on the line and fear of the protesters. So I have not gotten, ready for this, not one negative response from my officers and from officers in the county. I got an overwhelming sense of, we all want peace. And all my talks and all the conversations and interviews I've done since then is to edify that the police are a noble profession, and we're not perfect. So don't give up on your cops. And we can't give up on our society. We can't give up on our community. And that's where we are right now. We're going to make it better. So it's been positive every which way to Sunday.
No, that's awesome. So then those actions, would you say, are going to help, at least in your area, going to start to help to heal the wounds and build a better relation between the police and the public?
Now, I'm going to say something that I've said all over the world, and I believe it with my heart, that George Floyd changed American policing forever, because we've never experienced this kind of righteous anger like we see around the nation and around the world now. People are tired of unrest. They're tired of divisiveness. They're tired of disregarding another person's dignity because they don't look, act, and sound like you. And I think the mainstream society is speaking, and that is, you know, we have the ability. I'm not talking people who are lawless. I'm talking about people who peacefully protest, that want to be heard. Those are the folks that are the majority, and they're not silent anymore. They're vocal majority. And so that's why even this agency, we are very in tune with our community. But even more so now since that day, I've met with Black Lives Matter's presidents. I've had snacks with them. We've met face to face. We talk almost every day. I mean, now we've taken it to a deeper relationship, and I think that's what you're going to see. You're going to see police leadership change the way they do business and the community rebuild trust. I think we're going to be better for it in the end.
No, that's great. And I think that's exactly what's needed, right? We need to kind of bridge that. Talking a little bit about, I hate to use the word, the blue wall, but clearly, I mean, there's been that perception from the public around, police kind of close ranks and they protect their own. But when you're talking about that, how do you break that? How do you start to move beyond that and get to a point of more accountability maybe?
I mean, you look at like in Canada, hockey, there's people that are devoted to a particular NHL team and that's who they stand for. There's a bond there, a brand loyalty between, Androids and Apple. And when it comes to law enforcement and professions, I don't know what it's like to be a firefighter because I am not one, but I do know what it's like to be a cop. And we see things and we do things that others can't relate to. So many times we draw back into those that understand. It is a noble field. I love being a police officer. I love the fact that there's a brotherhood, a sisterhood, a fraternity. I love all that. But the code doesn't protect crime. I've arrested my own people out of their beds on a Sunday afternoon. I have a guy charged right now for sexual assault who was my 9th guy in the honor guard, and he was a friend. And I took his confession, and he's in jail. I have no tolerance for people that break the law and try to use the code. That's not what it's there for. It's a professional courtesy. It's a camaraderie, but it doesn't cover crime.
No, that's great. I believe that's what's going to make a difference. More of that for sure. Given your positivity and the ability that you have, obviously, to impact the change, you ever consider taking on a larger role, maybe changing the public perception of police on a more national level? 100%. I
have just yesterday with my media team, and I've been speaking for the last 20 years all around the country and around the world. So this is my sweet spot to communicate to people. But what happened on that May 30th changed not only my communication, but also the message and the ability for me to push that message out. So yesterday we added up between videos, shares, over 85 interviews around the world, from CNN, MSNBC to Fox to Toronto to Israel to Russia to France. This message and the name Chris Swanson and what has been done has been shared over 1 billion people. And when I look at that, change has to happen. I cannot in good conscience not be a part of this and be a greater, louder voice. I've been on the job 27 years. That was the best day of my police career. And so I don't want it to just go nationally. I want it to go worldwide. The perception of policing and the reform and social justice, there has to be a movement, and movements start with individuals. So I was placed in that role. I didn't ask for it, but I accept it with honor and grace.
Awesome. And what can we do? And I say we, meaning the general public, to kind of help with the change as well?
Well, right now you're at a peak of frustration, and you have different folks that are frustrated for different reasons. But I will speak to my police brothers and sisters first. Please do not give up on your communities in spite of what we see and what they say. We chose to do this field because it's in our DNA. So as the dust settles and we tool the way we do things, don't give up on the people who love you. The small amount of people who bring a negative light on us, that's not who we are. So stay the course and be honored and proud to wear that badge. And to the public, we get our authority from the public. So please don't give up on your police. We are moms and dads and husbands and wives, and we are locals that work and shop in the same places. So we are not perfect. And if those two take a relationship to a higher level, to a better level, then you're going to see even better policing. So I would recommend on both sides, pick one person that you would never talk to ever, and just literally have a one-on-one conversation. Say, listen, tell me how you feel about your faith. Why is it that you feel about this? And I'm talking in a respectful way, some deep, deep topics. Go talk to somebody who's the Nation of Islam. Go talk to somebody who's black. Go talk to somebody who's got a felony. Go talk to somebody who's a white police officer. Go talk, because it's those relationships that are going to stack onto each other that is going to change the culture. Because to be unclear is to be unkind. And if I don't know what you're about, I'm going to build up a natural barrier. Break those down and smash them.
Those are great, great words, Chris, and I really appreciate you sharing that. I will give you. How about the final word? Any thoughts that you have that we haven't touched on that you wanted to kind of share with the listeners before we let you go back and make more change in the world?
Oh man, I will tell you this: you and I have never talked before this. You have a platform, and I have a platform, and what you just mentioned, everybody has influence. And that influence can be used in a mighty way. So use your own circle of influence to make that change and spread the message instead of spreading venom. And if people in your circle start to spread that venom, then you're going to have to cut them out, because if we're going to do this around the world, we need people that are going to push forward. And it starts with people like you, even in Canada, around the world. Keep staying positive and push the message at your own circles of influence.
Yeah, that's great advice. And thank you so much. And thanks for making time for this. I know that it's been a very busy couple of weeks for you. I imagine that it's going to continue to be a busy time for you, but I think guys like you are going to drive the change. And I think, we all need to be that change we want to see, but it certainly takes the leaders and leadership of your caliber to be able to drive that change as well.
It's an honor, my brother. I appreciate you.